Boy, I mean, Florida Magic last year.
Florida Magic
Ben
has
Stark.
taken a big turn for
Ben
the better.
Stark,
Yeah.
David Schaffman, Pat Cox, to name but three.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to round 7. You have 50 minutes, and you may begin.
So, welcome to round 7 of Grand Prix Orlando 2012 with me, Rich Hagan, and him, Mr. Jake Van Lunen, the Pro Tour San Diego champion of 2007, alongside Mr. Chris Lackman. The players are shuffling up for this round 7. They are undefeated. There you see Ben Stark, one of the finest limited players ever. And continuing to do very nicely. Thank you. One of the real powerhouses in the Channel Fireball team. There you see Shuhei Nakamura of Japan, who continues to travel to approximately everything, except possibly my local pre-release. Although, you know what? I reckon I could swing that. I reckon you offer Shuhei, a bed for a few nights. Come to Britain. Come to my local pre-release. I'm going to see if I can make that happen, because I think that would be rather good.
Imagine that would be pretty fun.
Absolutely.
Get a Shuhei at F&M.
I mean, obviously the standard of gunslinging would go down because normally it's me, but I would happily make room at the table for a Shuhei Nakamura.
Ben Stark leads things off with a Dark Slick Shores, and Shuhei has a Phyrexian mana Jataxian Probe, so he's going to drop down to 18 here. Now, it's fun to watch Shuhei live because you get to see all of his mannerisms. That's something that they try to convey in text coverage.
Yeah.
But it's really fun to get to see him, slapping himself and cracking his neck constantly. It's very intimidating when you play against him, I assure you.
So we're going to see a turn 1 Delver. Ben will pass after his second land. And land number 2, no sign of Delver flipping into Insectile Aberration. And Shuhei will pass.
Alright. Ben continues to his land drops. It's extremely important for these blue-black decks. If you miss a land drop before turn 6, it's very bad for you when you're playing one of these decks.
So land number 3. Untapped, going to ponder.
That ponder is going to be pretty good for him. It's going to almost assure that he flips this Delver.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it looks like Shuhei has multiple copies of Snapcaster Mage sitting in his hand. I'm surprised he didn't choose to use one of them to flashback that Jataxian Probe on turn 2, a la Silver Gill Adept. Shuhei chooses to shuffle with his Ponder. I saw a Vapor Snag there, but apparently he would like a stronger instant, and flipping the Delver is not as strong of a priority for him right now.
Okay.
He draws a Vapor Snag anyway, and decides to attack Ben for 1 before passing the turn back.
How quickly, I'm waiting to see how this all plays out. How quickly is a Shuhei Nakamura going, right, I know you're blue-black, this is how the game's going to pan out, this is how all my cards change in fundamental value, this is how I'm going to beat you, this is where I'm vulnerable. Is that happening as early as that Dark Slick Shores?
I mean, when you're playing against a control deck like this, it's better to just think about the game as it is and where things can go. I think,
right.
Having a grim, expectation isn't necessarily the way you want to be approaching a control matchup, because if they always have the right card and you try to play around everything, you're going to lose every shot.
Is that in Dark Ascension? Grim expectations?
Now, this is really good for Ben. Ben's only taken a really small amount of damage, and he's going to attempt to think a few times on Shuhei's end step.
And flash it straight back.
Ooh, and that's a Karn Liberated in Ben's hand.
Big 7 mana.
Not the best card in a matchup like this.
Ben is not exactly blessed with ways to win, it's fair to say. His win conditions are pretty old school. You've got 2 Liliana of the Veil, you've got 2 Snapcaster Mage, a Karn Liberated, 2 Blue Sun Zenith to deck them.
Yeah, those Blue Sun Zeniths are going to be lethal. That's his plan.
Oh, fantastic. In case you're wondering, we're expecting this round to go more than 15 minutes.
You'd be surprised. I've lost to Nephalia Drownyard in 2 games in under 15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. But I think we can be confident this one's gonna.
Yeah, he can up his count from 2 to 4 Nephalia Drownyard after boarding.
Another Forbidden Alchemy for Ben. He's probably looking for cheap spell removal spells or for a Zenith at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Snapcaster Mage, such a powerful spell. It makes things so difficult for control decks are in just such a bad spot recently when they have to fight against cards like Moorland Taunt and Snapcaster Mage. Just the aggro decks have just as much card advantage as they do, and if you're going to want to get an edge, you really need to work really hard to outcard somebody, as we're seeing Ben do right now.
Think twice, flashback, think twice, Forbidden Alchemy, think twice, waiting in the yard, flashback, the think twice, coming soon.
It's how it has to be.
We don't have capsize with buyback anymore, which was always the correct answer back in the day. So there's Ben, about to spend 1, 2, 3 mana and offer up a bit of Zenith action. And there is Shuhei Nakamura, who will think about whether he wants the board to not look as good as it currently does. You see Pat Cox in the background in his Star City Games shirt, doing very nicely again. One of the most improved players in the last couple of years, really started to become a premier player on the global scene.
Pat Cox has really done a lot in this past year.
Runner-up to Raphael Levy last week.
Last weekend, he lost in the finals. He won the Star City Invitational mid-year.
So there's Liliana of the Veil for Ben. +1.
We saw a very interesting play there from Shuhei also. In response to Ben's Black Sun Zenith, Shuhei was unable to mana leak it because Ben had the available mana, so instead he chose to Vapor Snag his own Snapcaster Mage back to his hand.
Yep.
And that's going to give him a lot of value because the Snapcaster Mage is basically worth 2 cards. So it's like he paid 1 blue mana to draw 2 cards. That's pretty good.
Apparently. I expect to pay 3 at sorcery speed and call it divination.
And I still play it.
Or compulsive research. Similar vibe. So ponder from Shuhei. Looking at 3.
We're going to be wrapping up very, very soon. So this is last call for food, drinks, and snacks from the lobby concession.
Like I said before, Shuhei's mannerisms when he's playing, he's a very intimidating person. I don't think he's trying to be intimidating. I think he's just...
and he's not in real life. That's
neurotic
not in any way.
He's strange more than he's more trying to just be himself. But he ends up being such an intimidating player. He's just so good and so decisive. Alright, now looks like Shuhei's going to play an Invisible Stalker, which is a very strong card when your opponent's planning on using spot removal to deal with all of your creatures.
Yep.
However, he is aware that Ben does have access to at least 1 Black Sun Zenith.
And a Liliana that's at 4 that can go to 2,
Yes.
and let's say put something in the bin.
But putting the Liliana to 2 lets Ben cast an end-step Snapcaster Mage, which will...
Shuhei.
Yes,
Yeah.
Shuhei cast the end-step Snapcaster Mage, which will be able to kill the Liliana.
So Ben's going to go for Forbidden Alchemy. Graveyard filling up at the top left of your screen, well and truly.
Ben is able to counter the Snapcaster Mage.
So Shuhei still with 5 cards in hand.
And he's got a lot of gas there, too.
Here we go again.
again, and end-step Think Twice for Ben. He's going to draw me even more cards. This game is at a point where it looks like Ben has stalled out long enough to probably have an edge to this game. In times past, if a control deck made it this late, it would be just about locked up, but as we've mentioned before, yeah.
There you go.
A Curse of Death's Hold. That's such a powerful spell right now.
Yeah, and that was one of the cards that Ben talked about as, well, if I get there, not only does it wipe the board, it kind of functionally turns off things before they arrive. It's a pretty good card. So we'll take a look at the two sideboards, and a couple of interesting cards in Ben's card, like Phantasmal Image, Jace Memory Adept, the one extra Curse of Death Hold, up the count on Black Sun Zenith, Virulent Wound can up him from 3 to 4, the rest of the Nephalia Drown Yards, a single Batter Skull, 3 Nar Spell Bomb for anti the graveyard, a couple of negate, and then really interested by this.
The Bloodline Keeper.
2 Bloodline Keeper. Now, I know how fabulously good that is in Limited. But where does that fit in as a mainline constructed strategy?
Now, Ben's kind of using it as a gambit. On day 1 and probably in day 2 also, Ben is going to be able to side in this Bloodline Keeper against opponents who sideboard out all of their inexpensive removal, all the cards that can kill the Bloodline Keeper.
Okay.
And it's just going to completely dominate a game, because that's what it does when it's left unmolested.
Sure.
However, in a top 8, it makes his opponent's sideboarding decisions very interesting. Because if an opponent leaves in those cards that can kill the Bloodline Keeper, Ben may just not sideboard in the Bloodline Keeper. And he creates this game inside of the game to play with his opponent.
I mean, that's devilish.
Yeah, that makes it's going to make sideboarding very difficult for his opponents in the top 8 if he makes it that deep.
I mean, arguably, it's 2 cards that you have no intention of playing, that you know before you start you will not bring in. But if they don't know that, it changes everything.
Yeah, and I mean, he may bring them in, because they may think,
sure,
he's not
and then
going to bring them in. And
Yeah.
then it's this who can out-level who. And Ben generally can out-level anybody.
Sure. and by the way, when we talk about in the top 8, the significance of that is that you get the deck lists. You will get to know what everyone is doing.
Precisely.
So that it's not like, I happen to have seen over his shoulder, watched him sideboard or anything. It's actually, here are the top 8 lists. Off we go. So Nakamura, there you see him.
From Shuhei's side, I think the extra negates, the dissipates, those are probably the cards that are most likely to come in here. Revoke Existence is, a strong card when you're trying to deal with cards like Birthing Pod, but against a card like Curse of Death's Hold, by the time you kill it, it's already wiped your board, in a sense. That's a card you really want to be countering.
Yes.
And, he can't cut threats from his deck if he wants to actually win the game before Ben is able to just outcard him. So there's not really enough room to bring in the revokes in addition to the mana leaks, the negates, and the dissipates. So I expect here we're going to see gut shots and vapor snacks come out.
Okay.
And then we're probably going to see negate, dissipate, mana leak, and Oblivion Ring come in.
Now, one thing we haven't really seen from Shuhei, just because of the way Game 1 played out, is we haven't seen the fun and frolics of the Grand Architect. He's got a full set, because although this is a Delver Mage deck, with the full 4 Delver Secrets, 4 Snapcaster, he's also got 4 Grand Architect and a couple of Frets and Metamorph.
And those work extremely well together. You can cast that Grand Architect and then tap it, and just tap one of their lands, and then make a Metamorph, which is going to make another Grand Architect, which then your guys are double lorded. Even the Grand Architects are 2 floors.
Double lorded.
Yeah.
Like that.
And something he doesn't have is Spine Thopter. And for those of you that follow the Magic Online daily events, there's been an individual who goes by the name of Luki,
right,
who has been 4-0ing just about every standard daily of the past week, playing a blue aggro deck, blue Delver, with 4 Grand Architects and 4 Spine Thopters.
Okay.
And he has Runechanter Spikes in the sideboard, and Runechanter Spikes really good with Grand Architect.
Okay.
Better than Sword, even.
Wow. Do you know who Lukey is?
I have no idea who he is.
No, I'm afraid I'm not about to reveal that information. I just,
Do you know who it
just
is?
No, I was just curious. So we're away, and we instantly see a bit of sideboard action in the form of a spell bomb from Ben on the left of screen. And Shuhei's underway with Invisible Stalker. And attacks for 1. And there is a sword.
And the turn 2 Invisible Stalker, turn 3 sword play is something that really forces your opponent to have very specific cards.
I mean, Charles Gindy was saying that he felt that probably Sword of War and Peace was a bit slow now for Standard, and you can just take a while, and it costs 5 in a sense. So...
And a Black Sun Zenith is going to deal with that Invisible Stalker.
That is certainly one appropriate answer. However, action replay, and this time with the mana to equip.
Yeah. But Ben is going to gain 3 by using a Tribute to Hunger.
And just look at the blistering pace of this game.
Yeah, and Ben was
these
also able
guys
to
are
use
just-
that Nihil Spellbomb to remove the Invisible Stalkers from Shuei's graveyard and make his Moorland haunts not so haunting.
It's a negate from Shuhei.
Shuhei, more countermatching in hand. Ben choosing to mill himself with Nephalia Dranyard, hoping to hit additional copies of Forbidden Alchemy or Think Twice.
Get some bonus card draw into the graveyard. So now things get interesting because there's Shuhei with the Grand Architect.
Yeah, and now that makes the sword very easy to equip. All he has to do is tap a blue guy.
Sure.
The sword's on something. That was actually how I assumed that the Grand Architect would be used most effectively when I first saw it. I thought people were going to play it with the swords.
Counterspell from Shuhei.
So Negate is able to deal with Ben casts the Forbidden Alchemy and just needs to find something to kill this Grand Architect before he gets cracked with the sword.
So 19 plays 22. Ben checks his hand over on one side and keeps the Forbidden Alchemy cards well away.
And it looks like he drew a Snapcaster Mage. So he's
There
going
we
to
go.
use that to tribute the hunger his opponent.
So the board clear again, and now Shuhei down to 2 cards. Grand Architect for the Japanese Hall of Famer, inducted in 2011, San Francisco.
Ben Stark, perhaps a future Hall of Famer. I would not be surprised.
No, I mean he's well on the way. Was runner-up at Paris last year, of course. Had 2 Pro Tour top 8s. 2004, I believe.
He won a Pro Tour very recently.
Indeed, he did.
Such a master. Thinking once, and
Yeah, so
I think
he
he's
goes
going to be
on runner. He
thinking
goes
again.
on, yeah.
and Curse of Death's Hold. We've already seen how strong that can be. But it's looking like he's probably going to just have to chump block this Grand Architect. Maybe not, though. He's at 25.
Yeah, I always forget that Paul Rietzel lost the final of Paris because he seemed to be winning everything that weekend. He seemed like he was going to win the GP, several side events, the Legacy, a little 2-headed giant over in the corner, the Pro Tour.
I've made the same mistake. Everybody makes that mistake. I feel bad.
Well, he'd already won Amsterdam, of course, in 2010, and it's just like he seemed like the natural choice.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll tell Ben about that when we interview him after the game.
Ooh, and there's the Bloodline Keeper. And you see,
there we go.
Now here's what happened. Shuhei probably sideboarded out Gunshots and Vapor Snacks, like I said.
Wow.
And suddenly, he's facing an unbeatable Bloodline Keeper.
Oh boy. You're very good at this game. You should play this game.
I love this game. This game's great.
You're not wrong.
Ooh, and a Phantasmal image comes down, attempting to copy the Bloodline Keeper.
Wow.
That's a lot of Bloodline Keepers. Ben's going to attack Snapcaster Mage. Now Ben has no hand, but he has multiple Bloodline Keepers on the table, so...
Yes.
He also has the ability to think again, based on his graveyard.
Yep.
And I believe he also has some Forbidden Alchemies in his graveyard, too, so...
So the no hands may not be no hand for long.
It's, he may have no cards.
I'm quite interested that a lot of the blue-white decks, or white decks in Modern, run Wrath of God or Day of Judgment or, assorted board sweepers. It feels like here almost none of the blue-white aggro decks are running anything like that. Is there a place for that? It just watching today, it feels like there are times when actually going, I don't care how big it is, go away, would actually be quite good for some of these aggressive decks.
I don't know if it's good enough in Standard, but because the problem is in Modern, people are doing things that you need to have that.
Sure.
And the other thing is in Modern, your deck also has the ability to follow that up with something like a Cloud Good Ranger, or not Cloud Good Ranger,
yeah.
but you understand what I
I
mean.
know,
like
I know. Even a Spectral Procession.
Yeah, a Polymorph.
Yeah. Well, we are back in Standard with Ben Stark, who is delivering quite a big Forbidden Alchemy, the big 7 mana. So, as we said, the no hand at all is now 2 in hand, plus about to go to 3. Three mana open for Stark on the left.
And the vampires are coming. Shuhei only has 2 Oblivion Rings, so the Bloodline Keeper that's still in play is going to be there for a very long time. It will actually be in play unless Ben is somehow forced to chump block.
Okay.
Which does not seem likely, because you can just tap it and get a chump blocker if you want a chump blocker.
So I think this is the first time on air that I may actually get the opportunity to say the words Lord of Lineage. Because everyone knows Bloodline Keeper, but generally, long before Lord of Lineage turns up, it's like, yeah, okay, you're going to be with Bloodline Keeper. We might actually see Lord of Lineage.
I would love to see a Lord of Lineage.
You could see 2.
It's so... That card's so good. So, do you remember the Huntmaster that people played a lot of?
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's very similar to that card. In many ways. Only in many... It's also just a ticking time bomb in that if it stays in play for long enough, the game just immediately ends.
So, there's a Richard Miller token. This time a vampire. And Ben seeming to just have the answers. He said he thought he had a deck that maybe had answers to the format.
It's looking like he does.
It certainly is. I mean, he's looking in decent control of here. He's 1 up. If he wins this, he will be into day 2 at the earliest opportunity, and can then build on getting himself a position for tomorrow. Shuhei will attack with an equipped, sworded up man.
Yes, and Shuhei doesn't mind double blocking here and losing his Snapcaster and his token, because he can just tap his Bloodline Keeper and make another token. Preserving his life total, just staying at 19, seems like a fine play.
So Ben, quite happy with the double block.
Yes.
Yeah. Bloodline Keeper plus Vampire Friend. And on it goes. Ben just
Keeps going
grinding
deeper and
his
deeper.
way through that deck. Dearie me. This is absolutely, we said it was kind of old school Magic. This is just watching someone getting buried in card advantage.
He's just end step, make Forbidden Alchemy. Think twice.
Free guy, half a spell, thanks.
That's all I want to do. That's
at
all I want to do.
At instant speed at the end of your turn. Oh, dearie me.
If you guys like the look of Ben's deck, then I can strongly recommend Mystical Teachings in Modern.
Yeah. Oh, but that said, to be fair, because Jake's a lot better player than I am, I will add a little caveat to that. Playing Mystical Teachings, let's list some of the players who've been good with Mystical Teachings. You know,
Luis Scott Vargas.
Luis Scott Vargas, Kazuya
Theon
Midamura,
is good.
Guillermo
Kazuya's-
Wafatapa.
Guillermo Wafatapa's
Quite good.
Yes.
Turns out, Teachings decks, they're quite hard to play.
They are difficult to play.
You know, so don't go thinking you can just turn up to a PTQ with this random list with some gifts and givens and some Mystical Teachings and a bunch of one-offs and, oh, it'll be fine, I'll get a Consume the Meek, I'll get a Teferi, it'll all be fine. It won't. You need some practice with that bad boy.
Shuei's doing a really good job developing his board, despite Ben having such powerful effects. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, is that cards like Moorland Taunt and Snapcaster Mage, in conjunction with all of this library manipulation, it's really difficult to outcard a creature deck.
Yeah. Ben saw one Nile Spellbomb early in this game. Has another couple that he presumably has brought in. You see there at the top of the screen him wading through his very substantial graveyard.
I believe he may start.
Are we getting close to Blue Sun Zenith time? 13 mana?
I'm not sure if he's just going to... No, he's
See a
continuing to build
Geist
himself.
from Shuhei.
It's like Ben may have broken his finger.
I don't think that just happened though.
Maybe that's why he's playing control deck. You never know.
I would have thought blue-white would be the correct answer for that. Just try and get the games done as quickly as possible and then sit there with your hand on your lap.
We'd have to do like the emphatic sideways attack with this deck.
Oh, okay.
Ben is drawing a lot of lands.
He's got 3 cards in hand. The thing is, anytime he gets to a Black Sun Zenith, it's like all the hard work that Shuei's put in. Kind of,
Gone.
thanks, bye. So, time to flip. We get an Insectile Aberration, or 2. Shuhei with a card, he's going to ponder.
Alright, and see a negate there?
Yeah.
And at least 1 land. Ben with 14 lands in play at this point. I wonder how many that is out of his total. He was backing. Ben has more than half the lands in his deck on the battlefield right now, even with a graveyard that big.
Closing in on Melissa DeTora, current record for the day of 17 land in play. Yeah. Bit of Primeval Titan repeatedly turning sideways in that one. Well, we promised you this wouldn't be a 15-minute round. We weren't wrong.
No, we were not. But it looks like Shuhei is going to start getting aggressive here.
And counter back the other way. Looks like. So those life totals, which have been at 21.19 for quite a long time, they're about to change.
Yes, they are. And I think... Ooh, Ben's reading Lord of Lineage. It's like, wait, is this just Fatality somebody?
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's a 5/5. It's other vampires that get +2/+2. Then again, he can flip both. He can, flip and then +2/+2, 2, 4, 6, 4, 8, 12. He's gonna. Here we go.
Yeah.
Lord of Lineage.
Lord of Lineage.
Yes. Oh.
There he is.
Fans of the kitchen table everywhere. Get in.
And that's
12. Can't attack with this one. Plus, he attacked with the big guy himself, the 5/5.
Oh no, you used it to make a guy this turn.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, so 12.
Okay. He shows some removal spell to Shuhei and gets the win. Floridian defending his turf. Stuff.
Well, hopefully we will get Ben Stark into the booth and have a chat with him about assorted bits of sideboard technology and what he's doing playing blue-black control. Answer winning.
I was really excited about his Bloodline Keeper.
Yeah.